Okay, here's part two. Part two comes with some red lipstick. Oh, sort of made a mess of that. Okay, part two comes with the red lipstick because I'm in my bedroom. I want to get this done. The kids are out there and happy, and I think they're happy. What? Okay, yeah, they're out there happy. I thought they were talking to me. I didn't even want to, I wanted chapstick. I didn't have any in my bedroom. I didn't even want to leave the room to go get it. So here's part two, red lipstick. It's kind of crazy looking. All right, part two is going to be practical tips and mantras and mentalities. So here we go. And hopefully this will be pretty quick because I'm really pushing my kids. They don't care. They're happy. But I just want to get this wrapped up and go eat lunch. I like eating. Okay. Here's a practical tip. Get rid of the clothing that's too big for you. Do not have any fear whatsoever of gaining your weight back. Because I promise you, I have a couple times. I mean, this is pretty well a good trajectory slope down, but there's been a couple times up and then a major time here. You see that major jump there? That's a 2-week period of freaking out because as I was shrinking, I started to feel like I was shrinking away from my husband. Here, we'll pretend like this is my husband. Uh-oh. Now that's cute. Look at those red lips with this red bow. Okay. Greg and I have always been very, very close. But as I was starting to really shrink, we've always been 50 pounds apart. Now we're over 100 pounds apart. As I was starting to shrink, that's a cute bear. I felt like I was like shrinking away from him and we weren't close anymore. And I was like, oh no, we're either going to be fit together or I don't know what. I refuse to be, I don't want to go backwards. I don't believe God would have me gain the weight back. But I thought something's got to give. And trust me, my addiction was thrilled to say, yeah, we should take a couple days off while we get this figured out. So I did. I took a couple days off. I binged, truly in sort of rebellion of like, I don't want to shrink, literally, but also figuratively, like away from Greg. Like he and I need to get this worked out because like we got to be. So he's doing this with me now. But I felt like I was shrinking away from Greg. So he started doing bright line eating with me. But I've binged 4 times in 2 weeks to rebel against our current trajectory. So my weight went up. It absolutely went up. I don't know, 8 pounds, 6 pounds. But don't worry about gaining weight because like even if your weight goes up, you will number 1 hate it, and number 2 you'll know how to get it right back off. Like don't keep clothes in case you gain your weight. This is just my advice. Don't feel like you have to. But I see it as a spiritual issue, like I do a lot of things. There are a lot of things that are not spiritual issues, like gas. There's some stuff that's I don't usually tie in a lot of spiritual parallels to. But what we wear, I do. What we wake up and what we put on, like in Ephesians, I believe it's chapter 6, putting on the armor of God. What you wake up and what you put on, what you decide to cover your body with, what you decide is worthy of putting on your body, what you decide is what you're going to represent Christ with or yourself with. I think what we put on, if you think of it in kind of terms of like what you put on your soul, what you put on your mind, what you put on has some spiritual undertones to it and some spiritual parallels. So if you don't want to identify with the things that being obese kind of go along with, like a lack of knowledge, a lack of self-awareness, hiding. There's a lot of different reasons that we keep the weight. It's like being in a cocoon. Maybe you're not ready to emerge. But if you don't want to associate with those types of things, then get rid of the clothing that's associated with those types of things in those periods in your life. So, for instance, for a long time, everything hanging in my closet had an XL on the tag. And once they didn't fit me anymore, I thought I no longer want to identify with the struggles that I had when I was at X. I'm not saying me. I loved myself at that weight, but those particular struggles, those particular seasons of life, I got rid of them. Hey, Mary, can you guys be a little bit more quiet? Because I keep hearing you, okay? Thank you. I always talk really sweet to my kids and I never yell at them ever. There's my Pinocchio nose. I realized I'm lying. After I started having a bunch of kids, I realized, oh, how funny. I yell at them for yelling at each other and I spank them for hitting each other. So I'm constantly like, be quiet, be gentle. Anyways, again, we're not perfect. We're human. We want to learn and grow and do better. Maya Angelou. When I knew better, I did better. Okay. Practical tip. Get rid of the bigger size clothing. Get it out of your house. Don't identify with it anymore. Don't see, I mean, it was hard for me to kind of let go of some of it because for one reason, I'm getting tripped. For one reason, I was like, if I let go of it, I won't have anything to wear. So I had to quickly, you can see that's my closet. My non-closet. We have no closets in this old house. I have not much right now. That's fine. It's fun rebuilding my wardrobe. Okay. It is very much rebuilding my life. So, Mary, stop singing, okay? You can sing in just a minute. Okay, here's a practical tip. When everyone gets out of the car on a road trip and they're going in to get something yummy from the gas station, this is a good time to get yourself a Perrier water. It's got lots and lots of bubbles, so that's like a soda. Get yourself a Propel water. It is so sweet, even though fake sugar is like ingredient number 10. But my kids, I call those my ices. Or get yourself a decaf coffee. I especially use decaf coffee. I do it all the time now at a restaurant as like punctuation at the end of the meal. I just had the meal. Of course, I want more. That's the whole thing with addiction. It's never enough food, but always enough hunger. There's always more hunger, which is good. It's a good thing. I told a friend of mine once that one of my children has a big appetite, and she said, "But you know what? He's got a big appetite for life." So I'll tell you what. I would not train this. I will train this brain. I would not trade this brain for another type of brain. My addictive nature is why everything's like yummy and delicious and I just love it and I get excited and I have a lot of emotions. I wouldn't trade it, but I got to figure out how to channel it and manage it. So at the end of a meal, say I just had steak and some broccoli and some asparagus and a little butter. That was my protein, my vegetables, and my fat. It's over. It's done. When that last bite is gone, it's gone. So a hot cup of black decaf, it feels good in my hands. I get more senses involved than taste. All of our senses, see, smell, taste, touch, and hear. Get some of the other 5 involved. Enjoy how a cup of coffee looks, how it feels. You might even enjoy how it tastes, but I swear, this is kind of funny. I met a guy recently that said, did you know that if you put salt in your... Okay, it was this man in a diner. I watched him putting salt in his coffee. And I was like, whoa, you put salt in your coffee? He said, yeah, it takes that bitter taste out. And I was like, oh, I might try that. And then I watched him put cream. And then I watched him put sugar in his coffee like this while he's talking to the waitress. Yeah, it's pouring out, pouring. He was like, yeah, he's talking to her. And I'm watching the whole time. It's pouring into his cup. And he had it there for like tens of seconds. And I thought, oh my gosh, this guy's hilarious. He puts, I mean, half his cup must be salt, cream, and sugar, and then a little coffee on top. So he went outside, and when I walked out, he was really, really sweet. He was eating outside. And he sat there, and he was thumbing through about 20 lottery tickets, smoking cigarettes, drinking that coffee. And I thought, hello, fellow addict. I'm kidding. I don't want to call someone, but I was just kind of cracking up watching this guy put all that in his coffee and then go through all those lottery tickets, smoking cigarettes. I was just like, you and me, we're cut from the same cloth. So anyways, this is kind of funny. He told me, yeah, put salt in your coffee. It'll take out the bitterness. In fact, put it in the coffee maker. So I tried it. And I have a very strange thing to report. It worked perfectly. Bizarrely perfectly. I put that salt in the coffee pot, and when I took the first sip, there was no bitterness whatsoever. But guess what? Guess what I realized that meant? It meant that there was no nothing. It was brown water. Without the bitterness, there was nothing to taste. So, I mean, coffee's not delicious, but at least it's a little interesting, you know, when you drink it black. So anyways, that's just a kind of a funny thing that I just recently learned. Maybe I don't want the yuckiness to go away sometimes. Maybe the yuckiness is what's keeping things interesting. I don't know. Most yuckiness in life I would want to go away, but I can honestly tell you, I will never put salt in my decaf again to make the bitterness go away, because without the bitterness, it's just brown water. And I don't want to drink brown water. Hi, Mary. I'll tell you, this clock is ticking. I gotta get going on this video.
Where's my just like selling horse thing?
The money? I'll give it to you later. Hey, get out there and shut that door quick. Hurry. Why are you wanting to buy a toy?
Yeah.
All right. I'll give you your money after this.
Okay, then I can buy a toy?
Probably. She sold a rocking horse. I've got $25 on that dresser back there. And she wants it. I told her, don't come in unless there's an emergency. Money can be an emergency. Okay. Perrier water, Propel water, decaf, those are my go-tos. Reach out. Here's a pro. I was going to say a practical tip. Reach out. Satan is the Lord of silence. He would love for us to just be in the darkness with our own thoughts and our own desires and our own temptations. No, reach out. Immediately reach out. If I'm all of a sudden finding myself craving something specific, like I'm like, oh, I want cheese pizza followed by a hot fudge sundae. If it's like really specific like that, I type that to a friend. I am wanting cheese pizza. And I mean, even just getting it out takes a lot of the fun out of it for the devil, because he's like, oh, well, now it's not our little secret anymore. So get it out, send it to a friend, get it out. Don't let it be in there. Don't let it swirl around. We got to take our thoughts captive. Paul teaches us that, okay, in the New Testament. We got to take our thoughts captive. Here's a practical tip. If you have binged on it once, if you have gotten high on it once before, my experience is that your brain will light up when it sees it again. The kids are in school 2 days a week. When they come home, they come home with bags of food. So like our county or whatever gives food to the kids. And they come home with these big bags of food. Name brand stuff too. Lots of sugar and flour. They come home with ham sandwiches, chicken and rice, milk, all this stuff, tons of stuff. But they also come home with Doritos and Pop-Tarts. And the Pop-Tarts are s'mores Pop-Tarts, so chocolate marshmallow. I have binged on those twice now. I think it was 2 separate times. I put them in the toaster. I pull them out. I put butter all over them. Like, ugh, I don't want to talk about it too much, or it's going to get my brain interested in that. And I'll have to pause this video and come back covered in chocolate. Okay. Because I have binged on those, because I've gotten high, and I'm not kidding when I say that, I'm not like exaggerating, because I've gotten high on those, because I've gotten that hit, because I've scratched that itch. I get real itchy. And we all know that drugs don't make you, they don't make the itch go away. They make you itchier. Okay. Now they have to go straight in the trash. No, not even the trash sometimes. The toilet. I don't know that I would reach in the trash to get it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I probably would, but I just don't even want that thought. So I usually crumble them and flush them down the toilet. If you have binged on it, then it is now on a list of like, you can't. Your brain has gone there. Neural pathways have been laid. So there are other things I can have in the house. Maybe some people with kids have no sugar or flour in their house. We do. A lot. And maybe someday my kids will have similar issues and they can meet me at Celebrate Recovery. So I don't know. But I have taught them, don't do what I do. Don't naively, ignorantly, I don't know, it's kind of a harsh word, but that's the truth. Don't use sugar and flour to keep your brain going and going and going and going and going. Like to get a baby, feed a baby throughout the night, or to type 20 more pages for a term paper. I used sugar and flour to make my brain go. They still have it, but I'm teaching them, don't use it to make your brain go. You can enjoy it, I guess. I don't know. I can't anymore. But anyways, I'm getting off there on a tangent. I'll get back. Okay, here's a pro tip: build integrity. Build integrity. I'm in the process of building integrity around my food by writing it out the night before and eating exactly what I wrote the next day. For a while, I was kind of sliding off, and I'd write it the night before, but then eat whatever I wanted the next day, even though it's still bright lines. There wasn't the integrity there. There wasn't like the, whatever it takes, steadfast. I don't know what the word, it's not steadfast. It's not tenacity. It would be like, what is it where I wrote it down the night? It's integrity. I wrote it down the night before. I eat it the next day because I said I would. So what is the word where, put in the comments below, where you just did what you said you were going to do? Integrity. Okay. Commitment. You stayed committed. All right. I texted, speaking of reaching out, I did text Greg one day and said, oh my gosh, Greg, I want this, this, this. And I listed it. And his response was so perfect. He came back and said, just say no to drugs. Okay. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to be careful. I don't want to knock my camera over. His response, I texted him one day and I reached out and I said, Greg, I just fed the kids lunch. I'm sure I gave them pizza. I don't know. And I said, now I want pizza. When I was doing Weight Watchers, I used to have a mantra. Want it first, don't see it first. Don't be so reactive. Don't walk past the office, party or the school cafeteria or your own kitchen counter and see that your teenage son left muffins out and go, oh, I want a muffin. I wasn't wanting a muffin 10 minutes ago. I saw it and then I wanted it. Want it and then want it first, not see it first. Yeah. Want it. Let yourself, that doesn't even apply now because we write down what we're going to eat the night before. We use the good part of our brain, the decision-making part of our brain to figure it out. We don't use the reactive, what sounds good right now part of our brain the next day. It doesn't even apply. But I can tell you that I saw their lunch and then I wanted it. Well, of course I did. No figure. Go figure. So I texted Greg. I reached out and told him what I was wanting. And he immediately sent back, just say no to drugs. Because he knows that sugar and flour are by definition drugs. If it started out as a plant and it ended up as a powder, that refining process turned it into a drug, a dose-dependent drug. So I'm not being silly or dramatic calling sugar and flour drugs. They are. So I ordered myself this t-shirt. Dare to resist drugs and violence. Just say no. Okay. All right. Practical tip. This is a big one. In order to turn your body into a confident fat-burning machine, you have got to give it everything it needs, which includes macronutrients, carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, but it also includes micronutrients, the vitamins and minerals that come from fruits and vegetables. I learned years ago, you can be 400 pounds and starving if you are only eating a bunch of non-food junk. I like to think there's no such thing as junk food. There's junk and there's food. By definition, food is a substance that promotes and sustains life. It's a nutritive substance that promotes and sustains life, something like that. It promotes and sustains life. We have to have it. We don't have to have sugar and flour. We don't have to have junk. So I don't call it junk food. I call it junk. So, in order for your body to become a fat burning machine, it needs everything that it needs. And then it'll be completely confident to let the fat go. Your body stores fat in an effort to protect you from the stressors that it perceives. So it's either going to store fat or release fat depending on what kind of stressors it thinks it has. John Gabriel in the Gabriel Method said, and I read this in his book years ago, it's going to store fat if it thinks that there's a famine coming on or if there's high temperatures. Think about that. You'd need fat. So like back in the day when it wasn't 2020, there might be things like a famine or high temperatures that you may not be able to protect yourself from, so your body would want to store fat in an effort to protect you. It might want to drop fat if there's a saber-toothed tiger after you. So it is either going to store fat or drop fat in an effort to help you deal with the stressors in your life. And in 2020, a lot of those stressors are like super busy, hectic schedules, lots of crap on social media, working, burning both ends of the midnight, what's that saying? I don't know, working day and night, burning both ends of the oil. Okay. You have to eat. The reason I'm saying this as a practical tip is don't just eat the meat and cheese. Get those fruits and vegetables so that your body is so confident that it's going to get everything it needs, even though it's only getting a little. Because when you're in the weight loss phase, you're only eating a little. You need to stay in a deficit in order to lose. But your body needs to be confident that it's getting everything it needs so it can say, oh, okay, never mind, we're good, we can shed this fat. Your body has a mind of its own, and you've got to find ways to communicate with it and work with it and not have it work against you. A lot of people probably gain weight because they're trying to lose weight. So they're stressed about trying to lose weight. And when you have adrenaline, cortisol, and insulin flowing through your body, you're in fat storage mode. You don't want adrenaline, cortisol, and insulin flowing through your body all the time. That's why these 3 meals, I call them breakfast 1, breakfast 2, and breakfast 3. You have time between each meal to let your hormones level back out so that it's not constant insulin being released to shuttle all the sugar into your system. Let's see here. So you've got to communicate with your body, and one way to do that is to give it everything it needs. Give it the fruits, give it the vegetables. There are so many, like when I was saying earlier, there's junk and there's food. There's so much of what we consume that is literally not food. Soybean oil back in the day, probably, I don't know, the 80s, was deemed inedible. Now it's in so much. Look at your ranch dressing. It's soybean oil. It was deemed inedible. And then it made the cut, and now it's in so much, just like aspartame is absolutely poison, and it's in thousands of things, including chapstick. Sugar and flour are in so much of everything. And obviously, people know this. I mean, it's a big business to get people hooked on their stuff. Let's see. Okay, so Here's how you can be 400 pounds and starving. You can be 400, 600, 1,000 pounds and starving for nutrition. And every single thing you eat, your body's hanging on to it because it's desperately trying to mine and find the things that it needs to function. So I want you to think of it like this. Imagine needing a pencil. And instead of going to the dollar store and buying yourself a pencil, you called the trash company and asked them to start unloading the dump truck full of trash in your front door every day. Unloading tons, literally tons of garbage into your home so that you could hopefully find a pencil. That's what we do when we stuff ourselves with tons and tons of crap. Yes, our eyes want it and our mouth wants it, but once it goes past our neck, our bodies have to deal with it. Once we swallow it, it has nothing to do with how it looked or how it tasted. And at that point, our bodies have to deal with it. So they say, here comes another flood. The dump truck showed up at the door again. Here it comes, guys. Let's go. Let's get busy. Start hauling all this. Start storing all this. Put it where it needs to go. Make a new lump. Make a new roll. Make a new bulge. We've got to store all this because we're desperately trying to find a pencil. Stop doing that. Okay, I don't want to tell you what to do, but I'll tell you what I've done. I've stopped doing that. I've stopped, except for the occasional wagon fall off that, we'll see. By the grace of God, I won't do that again. But anyways, I've learned a lot. Once you know it, you can't unknow it. Once your eyes have, I once was blind, but now I see sugar is not for me. Okay. That's how powerful knowledge is. It allows us to make changes in the right direction. So instead of eating and eating and eating and eating and eating, and our body storing it all, trying to help us, your body is not, it's not your enemy. It's not betraying you. It is trying to help you. It is storing all that crap you're eating, or you were. I'll speak to myself. It was storing all that crap I was eating in an effort to help me get what I needed because it was not confident that it was going to get it. So now I called the trash company. I said, go ahead and stop dumping tons of trash in my front door. Instead, I'm going to go directly to the store and get a pencil. It's much more efficient, and my body has released fat. It's much more confident now. It knows it's going to get what it needs, so it does not have to store all of that junk, all of that non-food. People say that they were eating too much of the wrong foods. No. They're not the wrong foods. They are non-foods. Eating too much of non-food. Just because you can chew it and swallow it does not mean it's food. Okay. So here's a practical tip I do. I now, at night, I do a PLC, a Prowling lion check. 1 Peter 5:8 says that the enemy, you got to stay of sober mind because the enemy is like a prowling lion waiting to devour. So I want you to imagine a lion, and he's just like out there. And if you're not aware that he's out there, just be aware that he's out there. We know he's out there, but he's going to come after us more aggressively some days than others. I want to be aware of his presence. So at the end of every day, I do a PLC, a Prowling lion check, and I write down, how close did I feel the enemy's presence today? How hard was he working? How much did he get me to entertain those thoughts? Maybe it's PMS. Maybe it's a hectic schedule. Maybe it was just loneliness or boredom or a whole host of things. Now, those are all very normal earthly experiences, but the enemy's going to use them. Our human nature and our desires are not sinful. It's when we act on them, and that sin leads to death. That's scripture. So the sin is what leads to just the death, and maybe not even the ultimate death, but maybe the death of potential. So every night I decide on a scale of 1 to 10, and here's why, how much I felt the enemy's presence. Here's why. The danger zone for me is if I go from a 2 to a 3 to a 4 up to a 10. When it's a 10, That's what I'm talking about. That's that primal involuntary stage where my brain clicks in. I'm like, get out of my way. I'm going to Dairy Queen. And no one can stop me and nothing can stop me. And I'm going to eat until my stomach hurts. And when the clock strikes midnight, I will turn back into Cinderella. Okay? So it's opposite. It's like I become, I don't know what I become. Pumpkin, a lizard, I don't know what, for like 12 hours. I don't know, however long. And I just heard Mary tell Clara, don't poop in the shower. Franklin! Oh my gosh, we have 5 kids in one bathroom. We're about to add on to our house. That will help. But I hear a lot of people in the bathroom. Franklin just got home from football talking about, if you don't get out of here, there's just a lot of talk about poop. Okay. Where was I? When I get to a 10, at that point, it's just damage control. It's like that dog that I talked about in part 1, that it's like a male dog if there's a female. And look, you're not going to talk to him. You're not going to train him. You're not going to get through to him. It is primal. So this addiction, you better just get out of my way because I will beat you up for that candy bar in your purse. I don't want to get anywhere near a 10. So I want to be aware of the enemy's presence. I want to be aware of the stressors in my life. What can I do proactively? What I have to do is prevent a 10 from happening. I can't talk myself off that ledge. So, like I said, at that point, it's damage control. Okay. Let's see here. Making my way. All right. So those are some practical tips. Here's one. Don't take your recovery for granted. Ever. It can never be on autopilot. It's got to be something. You're going to always have an active problem. You're going to always need an active solution. Don't take your recovery for granted. Spend time on it. Focus on it. Nurture it. I started taking mine for granted. I had all these women coming to me. What are you doing to lose weight? Oh my gosh. Could you do like a weekly support group? Could you? I was like, yeah, sure. I can. Let's meet Tuesday nights at 8:00. I'll just stay after from Celebrate Recovery. I cleared that with my husband. I was like, would that work for you? I'll just stay after. I'll meet with these women. And when I started thinking about how, I'm going to have to come up with some kind of curriculum every week to teach them, blah, 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 blah. I listened to Susan Pierce Thompson videos for hours upon hours upon hours upon hours upon hours in the beginning. I saturated my brain with all of this information. And I thought, how can I take all that and deduct it into something that's like palatable for these women? So I was like what I was trying to do is trying to keep their lines bright. No, these are smart women. If they want to do it, they can do it. If they don't want to do it, they don't have to. I had a woman recently tell me that she's this close to getting surgery. The size of your stomach is not the problem. So making it smaller is not the answer, all right? And I know of lots of friends and family that not only gained their weight back, but like my nurse friend told me, if you cut your stomach, which is the way your body absorbs nutrients, then you cut its potential to ever be able to absorb nutrients again. That is a permanent change. That is not even the solution. Like a heroin addict cutting off his arm. The desire will still be there. This is a behavioral problem, not a physical problem. The problem is not the size of your stomach. Please do not go cutting at it. This is behavioral. If you cut your arm off to quit doing heroin, you will still want to do heroin. And you might actually go to more extreme measures to do it. This is a behavioral problem. It's an active problem. It needs an active solution. So take your recovery very seriously. So now I check myself back into Celebrate Recovery. I actually have a sponsor now. I asked this woman to be my sponsor. She's taken me through the 12 steps for recovery, for addiction. I have a journal now at night. I earn each meal with water for about 8 or 10 years. I don't know. I'm exaggerating. Probably 6 years, maybe 7. I've been earning my breakfast with 32 ounces of water. I wake up every day and I do not eat breakfast until I drink 32 ounces of water. But lately I noticed that that's all the water I drink all day long. Other than like a Perrier or a Propel water or a decaf coffee. Okay, anyways, my point is, we often mistake thirst for hunger because back in the day we could eat food and we would get water. Like back in the day, you would eat an orange, you'd eat something fresh, you'd eat something that God made. And get water from it. So that's where our body says, hey, I'm hungry, when really it's thirsty. So don't confuse the two, or you'll be consuming and snacking when really you just want water. So now here's a practical step I do. I earn my breakfast, my lunch, and my dinner with 32 ounces of water. So by the end of the day, I've drank almost 100 ounces of water. That's really helping. And trust me, by lunchtime, I'm hungry and I want to eat, but I'm like, nope, you got to drink some water first. And that just helps in a bunch of different ways. Another thing is think about the steps you're taking. And a practical step that I'm taking is realizing that I am headed towards maintenance. And by the time I get there, I do not want to be maintaining my weight, but still on a roller coaster of binging and all this. I want to have my lines solidified by the time I get to maintenance. So that's a goal of mine right now. I still have a little bit more weight to lose before I maintain. And by the time I get to what is maintenance, I really want my lines solid so that all I'm focusing on is maintaining, not still. I mean, I'll still be learning, but not still establishing bright lines. Okay, so that was practical tips. I think I will, I don't know, this is going to be 3 parts. It might be 5. I think I'll stop here, and then we'll get into mantras and mentalities. Then we still have frequently asked questions and final thoughts. All right, I'll be back with you. Love you. Bye.